This is the 2018 Perodua Alza. The Perodua Alza has been around in the market since 2009, so this is effectively a 9-year-old car that has been given a recent facelift about 2-3 months ago. Now, we can only guess that this is probably the last fling for the Alza. With this facelift, I think it will last up to maybe 2020 or maybe 2021. So the Alza is still doing quite well for Perodua, selling maybe between 1,500 to 2,500 cars a month. And it's quite an interesting story. For Perodua, this is their first purpose-built MPV. Before this, they had that very tall Canary or something like that. But that wasn't a proper MPV, it was just a big and tall car. This is a proper MPV, a subcompact MPV, but an MPV nonetheless. And when they were launching it for the first time in 2009, they had a very curious way of targeting this car, of launching this car. The marketing ploy was a bit interesting, let's put it like that. So when they launched the car, the tagline was, "Car one moment, MPV the next." So the focus was in it being a car and sometimes being an MPV. What's even more interesting, they targeted this car at young male drivers, single young male drivers. Now, why would you target an MPV at young single male drivers? Well, I don't know, but it worked. And I guess the kind of people who would buy this, if you're a male, young, and you bought this car, I don't think you are the sort of person who is careless. You're probably somebody who thinks and plans ahead a little bit. And that's why you'd buy something like this. So what's new with this new facelifted car? As you can see, this is a very, very minor nip and tuck, very minor facelift. Most of the changes are limited to the plastic bits, which means the front and rear bumper and side skirt and that sort of thing. So in front here, you can see this new grille, which is piano black with a bit of chrome, and this has given it a bit of new shine. And there's a bit of chrome on the bumper underbreather here. And there's a redesigned bumper, and there's some mock carbon fiber sticker finishing. It's a nice little piece of graphic that gives it a bit of dynamism to the front, but it is a sticker and it is fake carbon fiber, so some people will like it, some people will think, a little bit aftermarket this. And it has a fog lamp left and right, and fog lamps just makes the car look a bit more premium. So overall, the front of the car is pretty much recognizable as an Alza with a bit of makeup on it. From the side, you can see that it has this new side skirt. This side skirt, if I'm not mistaken, is part of the Gear Up package. Gear Up is, of course, Perodua's accessories package. And at the back also, you'll see that this is an SE model. There's a new bumper with black trim, and again, this carbon fiber sticker, and this is kind of a diffuser effect at the bottom. And there's a new spoiler. Now, the biggest change to the back of the car is this. It used to go straight, and now it dips down a bit and matches the edge of this vertical tail lamp. But that's about it. And this thing's now black with this chrome badge. So it kind of makes it a bit more shiny, but still, it's the same 9-year-old car that you've seen before. Okay, if you're familiar with the Alza and you take a look at this, it's still the same dashboard pretty much. The biggest change has been to the center console, where they've given it this fresh new piano black finish with some nice chrome trim. It does help to lift the center console a little bit to bring it somewhat into the 21st century. But the biggest change actually is to this little aircon vent. Well, it's not really a big change. What they've done is, instead of having two large aircon vents before, they've sort of split the vent in the middle to create somehow like a 3-vent system. So now the two side vents can be adjusted for height and also direction, left to right, but the center ones can't be changed. Now, the reason why they've done this is because the Alza doesn't have a rear blower, you see, and it has 3 rows of seats. And in a hot country like Malaysia, this can be an issue, this can be a real issue. But you see, the thing is that the Alza was sold to young male drivers, and for the most part, they use this car as a 5-seater, not as a 7-seater. The last row of seat is truly an occasional seat. Now, I don't know what the percentages are, but according to some other manufacturers, when they have a 3-row car, like a 7-seater, the last row is only ever used like at a maximum of 15% of the time. So in this car, I suspect it's even lower than that. But still, Perodua wanted to help and improve the air circulation and the thermal comfort of all 3 rows of passengers. So what they've done is they've fixed the center position. This has been optimized for making sure that the airflow goes all the way to the back. There's even a little graphic here that says that this is for the third row of passengers. So apart from the splitting of the aircon vent, they've also put in a bigger, they say improved evaporator, and that I suppose allows the air to become colder much faster, and that is supposed to help with the overall thermal comfort of the passengers. Now, other than that, it's the usual Alza dashboard arrangement with the center-mounted main instrument cluster. There's a small compartment here where you can put stuff here. I've put away my little phone mount sucker in here, my glasses, my phone will fit in here, and this new head unit has a USB outlet, so you can charge your phone and also connect your device to the head unit to play whatever music you want. There's another 12-volt socket here, and here which I use a USB adapter again, because you know, cars these days they need more than one USB outlet, and this car is a pretty old design, so it just has that one USB outlet. But the biggest crime in this car, I think, is the fact that it has no cup holders. As a family car, it's strange it doesn't have cup holders, but this car is from a different era, from an era where maybe that wasn't so important. But a unique feature of this car, which I think makes it quite popular with young families, is the fact that there's a bench seat and kids like to sit in the middle. Now, while that may be fun, it is dangerous, so I would like to like a public service announcement here, tell you that if you do have small kids and they want to sit in the middle, it is dangerous. So maybe if you're driving like a short distance to the local shop to get some ice cream for the kids or buy some bread, then maybe it's okay, but on the highway, please don't let them sit here. They're sitting so close to everything that's so hard, and there is no airbag for the center passenger. So if you have a sudden emergency braking, they will hit all these really hard bits. This is a very hard gear shift and all these potentially very lethal surfaces. Okay, so now let's look at the second and third rows, see if this car still makes sense for you. The Alza's rear seat is quite generous because this car has quite a long wheelbase. Therefore, as you can see, there's quite a lot of room here. And what's more interesting is that you can slide the seats front and back. So that gives you more control over how much space you distribute between the second and third row of seats. And of course, you can still control the recline. So there's a very comfortable, highly reclined position here for those long drives. And it also comes with isofix mounts for child seats. These isofix mounts are like the old ones, so it's not as easy to get them to attach, I guess, to car seats, because the new ones, they're like a little hole where it's so much easier to slot the isofix mounts. But these still work there. I mean, they're there, but it's going to be quite difficult. Because this is an older design, there was no mandatory requirement for a 3-point seat belt for the center passenger. So it only has a lap belt for the center passenger, and that I think can be a little bit dangerous. So if at all possible, try not to use the center seat, which then makes this only a 6-seater, but it does have a lap belt, so it is a proper 7-seater in the sense that it has a lap belt, but it's not ideal. So let's look at how much space it actually offers. So I've adjusted the front seat to my own height, and I'm going to pull up the seat back for a relatively comfortable position, which is this, and there's still a lot of knee room ahead. So if I'm feeling generous to the third row of passengers, then I can move the seat further up just a little bit. It's about 2 inches forward, and they'll still be comfortable for me. And because the front seats are set quite high, I can shove my large feet underneath it and still be comfortable. And the center passengers, the tunnel is not too high, and because you can shove your feet underneath, it's still also quite comfortable. So 3 adults can sit in the second row, but obviously the one who's sitting in the center is not going to have an ideal sitting position. There's a lot of headroom as well for all 3 passengers in the center seat. Even though the center passenger sits slightly higher, there's still a lot of headroom. And on the back of the front seat here, there's a little hook for your takeaway food, your teh tarik or whatever, and there are pockets at the back here. But I do have one complaint about this car, and it's quite a big complaint. See, I drink a lot, and I usually get these big bottles. But the door bins, it simply won't take it. So I'll have, if I'm driving alone, I have to put this on the front seat and it'll be rolling around. When I brake, it'll fall down. It's a real major annoyance. So I hope if and when Perodua comes up with a new Alza, they'll fix that problem and that annoying cup holder problem. So let's look at the third row of seats. Okay, before we take a look at the third row of seats, we're gonna go via the luggage area. So Perodua has fitted this quite curious aftermarket accessory to the back of the seats. Can you see what it is? Basically, it's this plastic, molded plastic sort of mat thing, which has a kind of an accordion thing under here, so that when you raise the seats, it will just follow it. But when you leave it flat like this, then you have sort of a plastic covered storage area where you can put even wet stuff and not worry about the back of the seats, this upholstery getting wet and all grubby. So that's a nice and interesting touch that they've added to the Alza. And without it, this is just like a cardboard panel with carpeting. So now that you have this, you lift it here, and underneath you have some storage area where they put the jack, the emergency triangle, and all the tools, and some small spaces where you can put little things. Interestingly, the spare tire is underneath the car, so you have a little slot here. See, it says spare tire, and there's a nut here. So you twist it, and the spare tire will fall from underneath the car, and that way it saves space for the boot, and you'll have more room to put stuff up here. So you'll just pull the seats up. So you have to put the headrest in. And you should put the headrest in when you're using the third row of seats, because in case there's a bump from the rear, you want to make sure that nobody suffers from whiplash. So let's go and sit inside and see if there's any real space for me to sit in this car. Before that, I'm going to turn on the engine and run the aircon at maximum to see if I can actually feel any of that alleged cold air that's intended for the third row of passengers. So, can you see my hair moving about a bit? Yeah? Can? No? Well, anyway, it is surprisingly breezy at the back. So I've put the aircon at the maximum number 4 speed for the blower. It is actually quite breezy at the back here. And the temperature has fallen quite considerably in the very short time that I've turned it on. So I guess that works. But what of course does not work is, look at this. I'm all cramped up. The seat is set very low. There's hardly any room for me to put my feet underneath the front seat. And this has been set to my height. The front driver's seat has been set to my height. So it's basically 3 of me sitting behind each other. And whew, I can hardly breathe. Look, there's no room. It's jammed up against the front row seats. And no, if you're maybe 15 years or younger, or maybe 12 years old or younger, or maybe 10 years old or younger, this third row of seats might be fine for you. I mean, there's some cup holders here and a little bit of storage space, but it's quite mean in terms of comfort. I don't think this is suitable for adults for anything longer than a very short drive, maybe for lunch or Friday prayers and that sort of thing.
While the Alza may have had 9 years of great run, and we have another 2 or 3 years, it is coming up against some rather stiff competition, but not from where you expect it to be. You see, Perodua, I don't know if I should tell you this, it's kind of a secret kind of thing, but they're coming out with SUV soon. And that SUV is likely to be based on the Daihatsu Terios and Toyota Rush. Now, Toyota has launched their Rush, and the Rush is priced between 90 to just about 100,000 ringgit. So where is Perodua going to place their SUV? Now, top around the market is that the SUV from Perodua will be at least 15 to 20,000 ringgit cheaper than the ones from Toyota, which means that the entry-level SUV from Perodua might be priced around 70,000 ringgit. And some might say that is just a bit too close to the price of the Alza, which is now 65,000 per year. So in the coming months, strangely, Perodua might be doing their Alza somehow. But given that it's only a 9-year-old car, it's a bit of a problem for me to support this car. Because it's quite unfair to just support, I mean, you have to support it just based on whatever is available in the market. But it is an older design. So I guess for a car that is 9 years old, a score of 6.5 is not bad at all. See you guys next week.